Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, January 4th. You know, I was just thinking about it, and this is the weird problem with YouTube. One of the many weird problems of YouTube. Every time I stream, it always says Hearthstone and video game news, and just stopping right there, that's a really long title for a video on YouTube. And then I put and then some kind of and no talk about whatever is a trending video on the trending page of YouTube. Just as to see if perhaps that would one day trick YouTube algorithm. It probably wouldn't. I probably should stop doing it, frankly. But I was thinking, you know what, it would be kind of cool to have a new title for this series, and I couldn't call it like The Daily Show, because The Daily Show is something already, and we don't stream daily. I could call it The Thrice Weekly Show. I don't think that there's anything so extremely popular by that name, but if I was to call it like The Thrice Weekly Show, and try to have a more popular, simplistic, catchy name to it, almost certainly it would get less views. And only if I was a top tier streamer, if I was up to the point where I had 50,000 to 5 million subscribers, only at that point could I possibly even think about changing the name of this streams to something else, to then potentially handle the loss of potentially like 10 or 50% of all views and still get enough views for it to be alright. So yeah, this is why YouTube doesn't improve, is that I literally can't even do something creative and artistic because I have to make every single title, every single description, every single tag has to be playing that search engine optimization game. And it sucks. That has nothing to do with Hearthstone, but it's what's on my mind. We need to play rogue cards and just win, which shouldn't be too big of a deal. Really? Let's just play regular old ranked. Well, we could go back, just double check that we've done the talent ball. Of course, we did. I did that either off screen or otherwise. So here we go. Start playing. So I managed to schedule all the remaining Borderlands episodes, which go into early February, and I managed to schedule all of the Room 2 episodes, which go just for a couple of weeks into January, and then after that, in the same time slot, I have Black Mirror 3 scheduled, which goes into early March. And since those are the only two time slots I'm making any content for, starting right now, well, that's an easy victory. My next goal is to play something to follow up Borderlands 2. What I haven't been able to schedule, though, is there's 60-70 episodes of Hearthstone that have not been scheduled. Hearthstone is scheduled far into the future, so it's hard to justify or have that internal pressure telling me, you know, you really need to do this. No, you're really going to drop the ball. Episodes are not going to air if you don't do it. And the problem with that is that deadline probably will sneak up on me because I'm not that organized. I have my little spreadsheet that's a calendar that tells me when, if I put the data in there, if I spend the extra effort to put the data in there, which I do when I schedule things, it lets me stay a little bit organized, but it's not super organized. And really, the truth is, without more automation, without YouTube integrating stuff better for me, I need help. I would need a secretary. I need somebody, some administrative assistant of some sort to help me move, get more things done. Also, if I had an administrative assistant or secretary or an assistant, whatever I call them. Most of the time you don't hire people and call them secretaries these days because actual secretarial work is not super needed. So, particularly in a YouTuber way, I would have somebody who's an artist that I would hopefully try to push more work onto him. On top of making thumbnails, I'd be like, alright, schedule these videos for me too, and tell me what to do. It's 50-50. Do I? Honestly, I probably need a manager above me to yell at me and an assistant below me in the pecking order that I could have do work for me that I know I'm not good at. But that's what I did yesterday and earlier today. On top of that, the Steam Winter Sale ended. I got to level 23, so 23 full badges made with the trading cards, which raises my level up higher, so more and more people could friend me. But frankly, that number is already super high anyways. This is all about death rattle stuff. Next spell you cast costs less than 3. What spell is this saving up for? Wonder. Spell damage plus 5. Return all minions to your hands. Trigger death rattle, trigger death rattle, death rattle, death rattle, death rattle. There's a lot of drawing cards looking for one specific card, and I wonder if the one specific card that you would be drawing for in this deck actually isn't in my deck. Because this sure feels like this would be a Shutter Walk kind of death. 1/1 copy of a minion from your hand. I guess I could play this once I drew that. So this, and in the turn. Yeah, so the Steam Winter Sale happened. We're done with that. I got a lot of games because I got a lot of games that there's this program called Depressurize that helps you sort and organize your library on Steam. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work the way you would like it to work. I'm just gonna say that straight up. It just kind of doesn't work well, and often every time I use it, it messes up what I have already set up. And the number one thing that I've already set up is having, of the 1,000 games I own, I can now confirm I have covered and played 300 of them. So 1/3 of what I have is off the table. So that's something that I have to remember and know is like, no, I'm not actually just rolling as much as I thought on people's in a just huge collection of games. Although I still do definitely have a decent collection of games, no doubt about that, but also is that number is kind of a shocker. It does go to show I was making a lot of content as we're entering the 4th, 5th year, I suppose, of my channel. Like, big time effort was put at one point into
hand is too full.
Into covering as many games as possible. So I ran this game Depressurized, which there's multiple versions for multiple people. If the version you find by Googling it installs and doesn't say like version 4.6, if it's way smaller version numbers like 1 point something or 0 point something, then you've got the wrong version. Also, the version that you should have a like black background. Yeah, like a black background. So yeah. So I use this game, this program, to try and sort and organize everything, and it really made it put things in categories, but also made a lot of mess, and I had to do a lot of work, certainly.
There once was a man from
Let's see how this works. Okay. Deal 2. Alright. So let's do this.
Justice is mine.
Once was a man from Gilnes.
See, that didn't work, I think, the way it wanted me to do it. See, I think the strategy here, and this is crazy, is you play this to get 1/1 copies of this on the field like crazy. Just like insane amounts of 1/1 copies of minions. That would give you +5 damage, so that you could then like use 1 damage spell to do a 1-turn kill. I could see you trying to set this up, and I did just try to set it up, but this deck does not strike me as a winner to me. Yeah, so I spent several hours, instead of scheduling Hearthstone episodes, which I should have been doing, organizing and resorting like all the games in the categories, and it certainly let me get another perspective and get some hype up. There's a lot of games that I want to play in 2019. I am not sure how many I will actually do. It will be a number, but in comparison, since I didn't do an end of the year video this year, I covered, I think, about 60 games. So take that as, you know, there's 12 months. That's 5 games every month that are listed. Now, in all fairness, probably wasn't 60 games exactly, and in fact it was more accurate, I would think, to say it was a case of there were 60 rows in my spreadsheet, and there would have been 12 of those rows taken up with Hearthstone.
Hello.
So 60 minus 11 gets it down to what is that, 49?
Hail, friend.
So yeah, 49 games if you want to be accurate. The reason the number is even that big is certainly we were doing a lot of spotlights in November of just games that we got for free. That may not happen this year. I don't have a considerable amount of games that I've gotten for free. Also, that things that were labeled as gotten for free may have been messed up in the depressurize resorting of games. So that's another thing to be aware of.
Justice is mine. Amazing.
But I have a lot of games, certainly. A lot of games. I want to play Myst 3, and I want to play Manhole, which is the first game from the creators of Myst. So I want to play that first. And let's see. Oh man, I should have saved those. Man, the strategy on this is so late game. It really is just like 100% late game. You have to get cards that will do damage, get the spell damage up, and then do a ridiculous amount of damage. So yeah, I want to play Myst 3. I'm not 100% certain which game I want to play to replace Borderlands 2. It's certainly not going to be a first person or third person perspective shooter, though. That would be kind of silly to go that route. Let's go ahead and hit this, and then hit this, and then end the turn. But yeah, I need to decide, and I need to start recording. And I've got lots of things done.
Are you ready?
I kind of wanted to do an extra zombie game month, but that's gonna almost certainly have to be pushed to next year. Like, because the more I think about it, the more. If I was going to do that, I would have to try and schedule something to line up for March. Not even sure I'm going to do a May the 4th Be With You Star Wars month. That there are these deadlines certainly on my channel. It's just going to be like, how quickly can I get 2 series recorded and scheduled for, say, the end of 2019 before I come back and say, alright, now that this is well, it wouldn't even be 12 months behind at this ahead. It would be less than 12 months if it's just the end of 2015. Since we're in January 2019, I would want 2 channels scheduled, two time slots scheduled at least 12 months in advance before I even start to think about doing a 3rd time slot.
Are you ready for this?
And I'm gonna try and keep it kind of slower throughout the entirety of this year instead of getting really good at doing it.
There once was a man from Gilneas. There once was a man from Gilneas.
Let's see. Can I do a spell? Not really.
Justice is mine.
Can hit this guy and that's about it. So yeah, I need to get back to playing a game. Starting in a, well, either later today or in a couple days. I'm gonna have to go buy groceries tomorrow, so that'll take all day the way I do it. Yeah, in fact, I'm quite dangerously close to being completely out of food. If I were to get snowed in for another week, it would be. Does he not have enough damage he can do? Alright, so I can play this, but I don't think it matters because he left me at 1 damage.
Amazing.
So
There once was a man from Gilneas.
No shiny.
let's see, play this, then do this, then do this, and do this.
Job's done.
Yeah, you kind of see if you got the right cards. If you had 2 Cobalt Illusionists and you could get this to play. Well, instead of just meandering here, since there isn't too much to talk about, let's just start covering the news. Because we've got a little bit of news and we've got a decent bit of games to talk about and look at today. What are our 2 goals, by the way? 5 games, any mode. Well, any mode would include single player mode, so if we get desperate here after playing this last rogue card, I can switch over to the solo player. We could try and make some progress on beating the, what is it, Rumble in the Jungle, whatever the latest expansion was. I can't even remember the name. That's how unimportant it was, particularly the solo expansion. But we could also just play Z Warlock and win. Try and get back up to rank 18.
None can escape my fury.
Yeah, I've yet to, in Hearthstone, feel like I'm consistently and easily and quickly getting back to where I was. It still feels very much like there's a lot of struggle in it. To cover some news that I may not have any articles for, but I certainly did see. Polygon apparently wrote an article of the top 50 games of 2018 and put Fallout 76 in there. To be fair, if you're going to name 50 games as your top 50 games for a year, you're covering pretty much every game, so maybe Fallout 76 was 50 of 50, but that is kind of ridiculous too. There's a reason why people limit themselves usually to top 10 list, and even at that, usually even then top 10s are stretches anyways. It would be a lot more realistic for people to make top 5 lists, because top 5 makes sense, or top 3. When you look at the Olympics, it's not the top 10 ranked people, it's the gold, silver, and bronze. It's the top 3. Some sports things go top 5, but no real sports that I know of do top 10. Even if you would like doing a championship bracket style game, you still really wouldn't look at it as the top 10. You wouldn't sell it as that. See, but if I even play this now, that runs danger. So this deck, as best as I can figure, you literally can't play any cards. You could play this. You can play that. Fine, you can play this. As long as it's a combo. Street Fighter has taken the ads out of their crazy plan. Their crazy plan was of course, to allow people, but not particularly force people, to look at ads that were directly on the costumes of the Street Fighter characters to earn tiny, insignificant amounts of gold that would allow them to unlock things that could be purchased, I suppose, with real money otherwise. There was a major backlash, rightfully so, in my opinion, on that. So that was a quickly and wisely removed feature. The creators of Catherine are potentially teasing a PC port. Now, I don't know what the status of Catherine is in its entire releases, because there's Catherine, the original game, which I don't think came to PC, and then the new game, Catherine Full Body, that's coming out, that I thought maybe was coming to PC, but I could be totally wrong about that. So if they're teasing a PC port now, it's questionable. Are they teasing the original game as a PC port, or are they teasing the full body version? The games are different in story, but not significantly different. And honestly, if you're only going to play one, you would want to play the newest one. Catherine is a weird game to recommend in the first place, because the main gameplay mechanic is these nightmares where you have to climb up blocks wall as fast as possible or you lose. But there are other parts of the gameplay where it very much is more around the idea of
there once was a man from Gilneas.
Alright, so I need this next turn attack to trigger its thing, and just hope this works. The other things you do in Catherine, though, is it's kind of a visual novel dating game with kind of like a Shenmue game, I think, where you're texting one of two or now three girls that you might be cheating on each other with. You're playing little mini games and having conversations. It's kind of a mature game, not in the sense of that it has sexual content in it, although it does. It's a mature game because it really is built around the theme of infidelity and being haunted by being an infidel. No, that's not what I meant to say. Don't phrase it that way. Being haunted by your conscience because you're not being faithful to your girlfriend.
The Brotherhood shall
Let's see. Is there anything else that I could think of off the top of my head? Not right now, so let's see. Alright. So we play this.
Monsters behind you.
And then we do
Justice
this.
is mine.
And then we do this. And what? Because like I have no more mana. So I mean this guy's just gonna die and he can't attack. Like, can I potentially kill my own guy and get a second one? Not really. I mean, I could kill my guy and get a second character on the field, but it isn't really going to do anything for me. Let's see. It's just in the turn. But it's going to be so easy for him just to attack that and kill it. I mean, that's just obviously what's going to happen. And then this guy's just going to attack this. Alright.
Unity, precision.
Well, this one's at 15 health, so theoretically. Actually trying to win here and not succeeding very well at it. Let's see, 3 plus that.
Well played.
I could probably win pretty easily if I just played normally instead of holding on to things.
My hand is full.
So we've got a game on Steam over here called Funky Carts. It doesn't look horrible, but it certainly doesn't look great. Nothing really impressive here. It looks like this might be just a kind of cell phone game. The concept's kind of cool. You're in a cart, but the cart does all kinds of bouncing and jumping all around, but how do you really control that? This game is $12.99. And really this is just at the level of quality of a game where I would say, okay, I'm willing to miss this. And if this turns out to be an amazing game, hopefully somebody will tell me. Alright. Okay. That's 9 damage.
Justice
See, I
is
could just do
mine.
this. So, in all seriousness, this alone, even if this dies, this will win for 1 mana. The only thing that could possibly happen is I lose in this turn.
Cheated! I never fight fair.
Gamer Sutra has an article. The Half-Life 2 and Portal writer Eric Wolpaw has rejoined Valve. Now this is a weird story because Valve News Network was talking about this. Apparently he got in contact with Eric Wolpaw and asked him what he was doing when he wasn't working for Valve, and he's maybe he was joking or maybe there was some weirdness here, but he said he was working at his like daughter's juice stand or something like that. So like just kind of not doing anything. Now I'm looking at the picture of the man and he doesn't look that old, like, and he doesn't look unhealthy. He looks way better than Gabe Newell does. So I don't know if perhaps this was a flippant firing because Gabe he leaked something before he left. I don't know if this is the writer that leaked the Half-Life 3 story or what. Let's read the article. Let's see. Wolpaw departed the company in February 27 after over a decade at the studio, during which he worked on menagerie of titles including Half-Life 2, Episode 1, Episode 2, Portal, and both Left 4 Dead games. I wonder, it feels like it is very possible that there's there's some major like shakeups happening here, where like maybe some people left in protest. Maybe some people left because there was one guy they didn't like, and then that one guy left. That can certainly happen. Is if you just hate the guy, all of a sudden that guy will leave too. Maybe Gabe Newell or somebody at the company begged him to come back. February 2017. It's January 2019, so he was gone 2 years. Maybe he just thought he needed a change. Honestly, I think if everybody could afford it, there's probably a lot of people out there that just on the base of it would love to take a 2-year sabbatical from working at their job. They don't want to particularly get fired or quit, but if they could say, hey, I just need to be out of this situation and then see what the world is like on the other side of the fence, maybe that's the case.
The light dim.
The article goes, his return was initially spotted by a Reddit user, Trenchman, who spied Walpole's name in the credits for Valve's latest release, Artifact. Trenchman then reached out to Valve boss Gabe Newell, who replied to confirm the news, with Valve News Network confirming the legitimacy of the email. It's unclear what convinced Walpole to return, the article says, although it probably has something to do with Half-Life 3. That's ridiculous. There is a link here. So, let's look at the article from Gamma Sutra in February 17th of 2017. And see if there might be some indicator as to why he left. That was said. It says Walpole's resignation came a little over a year after Laidlaw, also an influential Valve writer, revealed he'd left the company. Laidlaw's included many of the same games as Walpole. There's no word on yet exactly what Walpole is up to next, though he's credited as the writer for the upcoming Double Fine game Psychonauts 2. So, I think, oh yeah, this is probably the reason, if we could speculate for a second, is that he was working on Psychonauts 2. Psychonauts 2 is, at least for the writing, I think done now. Maybe he was hoping or thinking that he could start his own company with Laidlaw. Maybe he was thinking he'd get hired on by a new company and that didn't happen. Or maybe this was the plan all along, that it just got to the point where it felt ridiculous for him to technically be working at Valve when he wasn't really doing anything. It would be slightly surprising, honestly, to me, if Valve did any kind of real monitoring of their employees. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was possible to quote-unquote work for Valve and do no work for 2 years, no actual work, but maybe that's not true.
Reporting for duty.
Honestly, the idea of Double Fine getting a couple of new writers would be alright, not super exciting, but I would be cool with the idea, because then that would mean that they're gonna try and beef up production of games. I would much prefer Valve tried to make more games. I think the Valve lineup, as far as tentpole games, have a lot more appeal than the Double Fine lineup, which, in all honesty, besides Psychonauts, Brutal Legend Remake or Brutal Legend 2 is about all I could imagine you would want or could get out of them. So, like, that's probably nothing there. Honestly, I guess if we could put 2 and 2 together and think conspiracy here, Jack Black announced he was going to make a gaming channel. It has 2 million subscribers and doesn't have any videos on it. Jack Black, somewhat of a friend of Double Fine. He is the main character, the main voice actor in Brutal Legend. Maybe Jack Black started his gaming channel specifically as a promotional tool to play Psychonauts 2. It is possible. Make a lot of sense, actually. So, like, if we start to see, mark my words, today, 3:15 in Central Time in the United States, January 4th. If we start seeing that Jack Black is only playing Double Fine games, he is probably doing it to help out his friends. Maybe he's getting paid for it, maybe it's a hashtag sponsored ad, maybe not, but my guess is that it very possibly is the way that it will go. Might as well just play cards, I guess. Just die on our own turn. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. It says Black Mirror's Bandersnatch was loosely inspired by a canceled game. I will be happy when we can stop talking about this bad interactive movie that, like, every single critical review I've said, people have talked about it a lot, but nobody really liked it. They didn't like it as a game, they didn't like it as a story. It says, the article says Netflix released Bandersnatch, I'm tired of saying the name, its special Choose Your Own Adventure episode. Let's see. I'm just gonna skim this article. So this article is talking about a game that was in development in 1984 for the Commodore 64 called Cyclops. P-S-Y-C-L-A-P-S-E, Cyclops. And the second game that they were working on was called Bandersnatch. So, so apparently they stole the name straight up. I don't know why I did that. You know, this article really doesn't say anything. It's just talking about something that allegedly happened in the past, and I kind of question it. But it almost feels like this could be very much just viral marketing and lying. In the same way that there's been a lot of news coverage of people doing the Bird Box challenge, and I don't think anybody is actually doing it. I think it's hysteria and subliminal advertising for that dumb movie Bird Box, which I fast forwarded through and did not look interesting at all. So yeah. The one thing I will say about Bandersnatch is I saw, I think, 90% at least of everything, and I'm pretty well aware of what I didn't see. So oh man, I can't do this. I have to do this.
Sure, send the next guy.
Chill out. Chill out.
So yeah, what was I talking about? Man, I lost my train of thought there as I'm trying to play Hearthstone and actually win. Yeah, the one thing that Bandersnatch failed to do, as far as I could tell, is you never went inside the game. There was plenty of opportunity. The main character was clearly depicted as being very easy to hallucinate and mentally like hallucinate and be in the game or dream about the game. There was lots of sequences where you could have been in the game and that would have been a nice scene. There's also maybe they thought that was too on the nose, but at some point that falls apart because there are definitely sequences in Netflix's Black Mirror Bandersnatch where you were just getting straight up jump scares.
Shields up.
But yeah, they just really didn't understand the ideas of video games and what a video game is supposed to be, or the idea of interactivity. Just talk about some better news from Netflix, though. I'd seen this earlier, but I didn't know what it was going to be. They had published a couple days ago what was going to be released in January on Netflix, and one of the things was labeled Carmen Sandiego. I can talk about this because Carmen Sandiego was originally a video game. Where in the world was Carmen Sandiego? All of those spin-offs. And so the trailer is now available, and it's a cartoon with probably not the greatest of style. It's kind of an Art Nouveau sharp edge style, but I think that actually probably would work decently well for Carmen Sandiego cartoon. They're reverting and switching some things around, where Carmen Sandiego is actually going to be the good girl, and she's voiced, I think, by a famous voice actress. Not a famous voice actress, but a famous actress. So it looks like it's going to be a standard Netflix cartoon, which is to say it probably won't be that good. But I'm a little excited to see if something can be made out of it. Let's see. Gotta kill this.
Your soul is mine.
So yeah, that's interesting. You can see the trailer. I'll probably watch the cartoon at some point and mention how much of the video game element is really present. The video game element is going to be a part, though, because she is talking to the player like the previous cartoons had done. So she literally at one point says, "Player, send me here, send me there," or something along those lines.
Your soul is mine.
So
Sure, send the little guy.
yeah, that's a thing. But to be fair, most Netflix cartoons bad. I fast forwarded through the Godzilla anime that made or funded in part by Netflix. They always say that Netflix originals, who knows how much they pay of the actual budget. But yeah, that was animated horribly and looked terrible. I certainly am coming more from the understanding of how terrible the animes and the live actions Netflix have made have been. But let's face it, the cartoons I don't think have been amazingly good either. Although the competition is non-existent as far as cartoons. Like, you can make absolute garbage and put it on Netflix, or you can make absolute garbage and put it on TV and nobody cares. Okay, we have a game on Steam called Hide Your Butts, which is just a hole-in-the-wall game with kind of a trolling name. This doesn't look like it's a particularly good version of a hole-in-the-wall game. It's discounted to $1.79. Looks like it would be VR, but it actually says no support for VR at all. So, yeah. It's just one of these games. Use many keys to adjust how you fit through that hole in the wall. So yeah, that's not making it to the follow list. The good news is, if you're using Depressurizer to sort your games on Steam, the Steam launcher particularly, because it really only supports it really only changes what's on your profile on that one game, as I understand, on that one computer, as I understand it. I imagine if you went and logged into your profile on Steam on a different computer, it might be a different system. Might look completely different. I'm not sure. I haven't really done that. But it doesn't touch the wish list and it doesn't touch the follow list, so no damage was done there. Although, speaking of damage, there's this game that I've been playing on my cell phone called Adventure Town, and I've been playing it for years, and I'm probably 6 months away from just maxing out everything to the point where there's literally nothing more to be done. And Google emailed me and said, yeah, this game may have been hacked, so they may have gotten this kind of information from you, or maybe not. We found the security glitch is all they really said. We have no evidence that anybody knew about it or did anything with it. Which, of course, that's the first way it's said, and then more comes to light real quick that it actually somebody did access it. But it's not specifically too spooky for me because there's no information in that game at all. It's like they're gonna figure out how many crops I have in this management game. Do I want to get rid of this guy? Yes, I do. Wind Fury, please. No Wind Fury. Well, then I'll take Divine Shield.
Job's done.
TechRaptor has an article, the most read TechRaptor articles of 2018. So the 35 most read articles according to themselves. Number 1 is Honey Pop and Other Games facing removal from the Steam store. Let's see. 2 was 13 Advanced for Stardew Valley. Advanced tips for Stardew Valley. 3 was Honey Pop 2 announces new trans character Polly, delays release till 2019. So apparently TechRaptor is the place to go for honeypot news. Although that's not true. They just follow the honeypot developers YouTube channel or Twitter or whatever.
Job's done.
C4 is the Iron Mac, how to get rid of annoying local item keychain box. Don't know what that is. Number 5, unfortunately named Keyforge deck being recalled. Number 5 is Humble Bundle offers Dragons and Dungeons 5th bundle for charity. I get the feeling that TechRaptor doesn't have that many readers, and that's probably one of the reasons why I read them. In particular, is that I'm looking for news aggregators or news reporters, and TechRaptor is barely a news reporter. They very rarely break any new news or unique news, but they also don't put on a ridiculous amount of spin. Speaking of ridiculous amount of spin, I believe a friend of Zoe Quinn, who was the indie developer who made Depression Quest, who had basically slept with 5 other indie developers, which really isn't an issue, but then she was also sleeping with a video game journalist, which is an issue because he was then writing multiple articles praising her game and not disclosing his relationship. Really is the video game journalist's fault, but certainly when you've got a hit list here of 5 people in either the video game development ish world who you're sleeping with or cheating with in one case, and then you're also doing it with the journalist, that's a problem. So that's where Gamergate started, is Zoe Quinn got outed as a flagrant unfaithful person, and the journalist did not disclose his relationship and wrote articles when it would have been so easy for him to say, oh, actually I have a personal relationship with Zoe Quinn, I shouldn't be writing articles about this. Sorry editor, you're gonna have to hand this article, this assignment off to somebody else. So years now after Gamergate happened and been for the most part forgotten and changed into this boogeyman that means something in the video game journalist's minds that it never really meant. Well, the same thing has happened again, and again, it's really not Zoe Quinn's fault that she was friendly and overly friendly with a now female, although does that really even matter? Does that even assure that Zoe Quinn doesn't have some kind of physical relationship with this female writer at, I believe, The Verge is what it was, but I could be wrong. So this new journalist was writing rave reviews about Zoe Quinn's newest comic book, Goddess Mode, because she has left the video game industry and been embraced, I think quite stupidly, by DC Comics in their effort to alienate, I think, the last of their fans. And so DC Comics wanted this adult lineup, and ironically, like the first thing in this new lineup that they published was a Batman article where they showed Batman full frontal nudity, and then immediately had to apologize for it and edit it out in all future releases of it. So that was too hot for DC. From everything I've heard, which has not been a lot, Goddess Mode is at best a mediocre comic book that is just like a Mary Sue replacement for Zoe Quinn as the main character, and it's just not well thought out. into writing or anything, so like it's just not great and not really deserving
Why do you call?
rave reviews from a critic. And then when asked about it, the fact that the critic didn't disclose her relationship, which was obvious because they had talked and been friendly and like tweeted, liked, and counter promoted each other on Twitter. I mean, like counter endorsed each other with every tweet and like. They asked her why she didn't disclose this, and she goes, it's not a big deal, I've done it before. This was just a thing I was doing as I was leaving The Verge. So the question could be taken, was she asked to leave or was she leaving already? But just again, bad journalism. It seems like Zoe Quinn is a magnet for unethical journalists. Although, to be fair, I think the truth is, and it became pretty obvious that if you are a video game or comic book journalist, you're probably a failed journalist and you don't know even the beginning of ethics. Alright, let's get back to this TechRaptor article and see if anything in their top 35 articles that were read this year no, not really. Like, I'm scrolling through this whole list, and it really is a poor depiction of TechRaptor, because of just none of the articles that came out this year. Like, none of their articles really are any kind of articles that wouldn't have been news in a dozen other places, and none of their articles really struck me as like they were amazingly well written. This doesn't mean that I've just now decided I'm not going to follow TechRaptor anymore. I'm just, you have to know what it is. It is probably an alright video game news aggregator, but it's certainly not doing anything unique. It's not going for the major clickbaits, which is good in my opinion, but it also is not really succeeding in a lot of other ways where I'd like it to see it succeed. At least Gematsu, compared to TechRaptor, Gematsu lets the video game industry write their own articles, and at least in that case, you occasionally will have a video game developer or creator who can write an interesting article of some sort. So it would be nice if Gematsu had made a similar article. But also, it's very self-congratulatory to write an article. Here's the top 50 articles that came out this year from us. The equivalent would be if I made a special video just to show off the top 50 videos that were viewed on my channel. I did look at that recently. Hearthstone is very much still up there. A lot of Lego Batman things are still very much getting viewed. Nothing has come out as a breakout hit. So I don't really see a reason why I would try and change what I'm doing too much. that certainly would suck too. If I changed what I was doing, if I stopped being a video game critic and just started being like me, PewDiePie, just meme reviews, low-I, and things like that. Like, I don't think I'd be very happy with that. It would be really, really hard for me to think that there was something I would be more interested in doing than being a video game critic. I've been playing games for all of my life since the NES came out, so it's very much something I'm an expert in, and so anything else I tried to do would be certainly lesser as far as my ability on it, which is maybe a horribly sad statement, but it's the case, it's the truth of it. Moving on, Tik-Tok has an article. A creepy Legend of Zelda Minus World is discovered. So there's a way to glitch through areas in The Legend of Zelda. I've seen speedrunners do it. Somehow, according to this video that I watched earlier and just kind of skimmed, there's a way to glitch it in a certain way so you can get the overworld tiles to go into a negative world. In the negative world, it's kind of just in randomly, I think, accessing memory and deciding what it's going to do with it at that point. So it didn't even look that good or interesting, and it's certainly a very hyped up video. So yeah, it's not like you'd really, it's not like this is an intentional bit of content that's been hidden inside of the bowels of The Legend of Zelda, and just now it's being found. It's totally just glitched. And the idea and the concept of minus worlds,
Job's done.
like, there's a couple of games, early NES games, where doing a minus world kind of made sense, but it was cool, but it really was just 2 or 3 of them. Usually glitch are just not worth even playing with, unless you're trying to speedrun or break the game for some other reason, and then that's just not a normal gameplay style. GameIndustry.biz has an article. EUGN responds to accusations of retaliatory firings. Steel Division developer says dismissals were unrelated to last year's strike and were due to a professional tool for use of a professional tool for an inappropriate purpose. This isn't the instance of the IT department getting fired for that's the one that I forgot the name of that company, that French company that released a game this year called what was it called? I want to say Deus Ex Human Revolution, but I know that's not the name of the game. Well, inherently, I think the fact that there are 2 stories in the course of less than 2 years where employees went on some form of strike, whether it was a legal strike or not, or employees are getting fired. It shows that the problem with French employment and French income inequality is a growing problem that has come to a head. And sure, you can fall back on the old cliche that French people are obnoxious and rude and lazy, which, you know, that would be the cliche, but this is French people dealing with French people, so something certainly has changed there. I kind of wish that there were things in the United States where you could appeal being fired by, and you could go on strikes. Some places in the United States you can go on strikes and appeal being fired, but a lot of it you can't, and even if you try, you won't succeed. Right, deal 2 damage, and then do that. Wow, 78% win ratio. Look at that. 78% win ratio is a nice number to see. I should just be playing Zoo Warlock all day, every day. Let's move over to the European account. I'm still trying to do like 1.5 episodes and 1 episode, if I can get away with it, per stream. So that really doesn't line up. 1, maybe 2 episodes per stream. But yeah, if I could buy myself some more time and not have to schedule so many episodes of Hearthstone, which I could theoretically just not do any of it and only stream Hearthstone, but I want that number to go up. I want that episode number on Hearthstone to continue to grow. Demons of Murlocs. We did the Tavern Brawl off screen, so we have this deck. So let's open that. I'm a little sleepy, but not a lot. But I can certainly tell I'm moving a little slow today. Golden Legendary? That would have been nice. So, getting a Legendary is certainly something you don't get every day. Let's see. That one was new. Can we disenchant this for 100 dust? Yes, we can. Can we disenchant this for 50 dust? Yes, we can. And can we disenchant this for 50 dust? Alright. We're gonna have a decent amount of dust the next expansion. And we've got a legendary beast that's a neutral card. That's nice. Right. Murlocs. Do I even have a Murloc deck? Let's start with that. Yes, we have a wild Murloc deck. Let's just play that. We have Kofi on the chat. He goes, OMG Rydo, it's been so long. Hey Kofi, why has it been so long? Has it been because you've been really busy, or has it been because YouTube hasn't recommended a video of mine to you? Because I've been streaming every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, pretty much without fail. There have been some days in the last couple of weeks where I may not have streamed that long, but they happened. And there's certainly this whole winter seasonal affective disorder has caused me to stream at some weird times. Yeah, if it turns out people who used to watch my videos can come back now that my channel's not airing so many episodes, maybe that triggers the algorithm. Maybe I've just been putting too many episodes out per day. Moving on, we have an article from Komatsu. A certain magical indexed. This is the anime series I was talking about, I think about a week ago, where there's a certain magical and a certain scientific, and it's the same universe based off, I think, light novels. So it's the a certain ... series. So a certain magical index imaginary fest, F-E-S-T, fest, has been announced for smartphones. It's coming out 2019 in Japan. We'll see if it comes anywhere else in the world, although that probably wouldn't be much of a game that anybody would really be interested in playing in the West too much. Honestly, I just don't see myself wanting to play a anime-based cell phone game ever. It might, like, it would be kind of cool, I suppose, if you made something like Clash Royale, or no, I play Clash of Clans. If you made something like Clash of Clans where I was going to be into it and playing it all the time, and it was based off Dragon Ball Z or something, I guess I'd be cool with that. But I think there'd be way more microtransactions for games that have that stuff in it, that kind of tie-in. Alright, I have enough room where I don't really need to kill this one yet, so I'm just gonna do 1 damage there. Let's see. Kofi said my PC was broke and I wasn't getting recommendations. I've been watching Twitch. I got my PC back last week and only started replaying Hearthstone, and I saw you online. Okay, fair enough reason, certainly. Always trying to figure out why people fall off watching, or why people do watch in the first place. It's invaluable feedback. Oh man, I wasn't playing to win, I was playing to play Murloc cards. Well, we might as well do both. A victory is a victory. We're not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth. But I still need to play 15 more Murloc cards. Game of Sutra has an article. Star Control makers defend the DMCA takedown against Star Control Origins. Let's see. Star Control designers Paul Reich III and Robert Frederick Ford have defended their decisions. Interesting that they both have like 3 names.
For Doomhammer.
Have defended their decision to issue a DMCA takedown against Star Control Origins. Now, what's interesting to note here is Star Control Origins, at last I heard, was actually being sold from their own website for $20. So this will be an interesting part of this lawsuit if it turns out that Star Control receives a DMCA from to their own website, which they almost certainly have, and then ignores that DMCA and doesn't pull their Star Control Origins from sale from their Star Control Origins website. But I imagine it doesn't really matter too much in that case, because I don't think Star Control Origins' own website would be angling for the safe harbor protection of, I think it's Article 513 of the DMCA anyways. The article goes on. Origins developer Stardock has been engaged in a lengthy battle. Stardock, by the way, has had at least a couple Humble Bundle sales over the course of the last year, so that they are probably hemorrhaging money, if I was to guess. I would certainly not be investing in them right about now. Let's see. Yeah, I've been engaged with a lengthy battle with Rydo and Ford over the trademarks and copyrights to the Star Control franchise, and criticized the duo for choosing to bypass the legal system by issuing vague DMCA takedown notices to Steam and Good Old Games. I don't think that they're particularly bypassing the legal system at all in this instance, because they are also in this lengthy court battle. So they're making this erroneous, unrealistic claim that no, because you're already in a legal battle with us, you had to let us sell this game that you believe is infringing on your copyrights. And in all honesty, there is an argument to be made that maybe the creators of Star Control should have let Stardock sell Star Control Origins. That way they could make money on it, and thus demand all the proceeds from that game if they are so certain that they're going to win their court case, which maybe they're not, and that's why they wanted to go this route. But also, this is, as it is often explained by corporations, I don't know if this is true or not, at least for trademarks, you have to actively defend your trademarks. For copyright, you kind of also have to somewhat actively defend your copyright. You can't really knowingly have somebody violate your copyright and use it. Let's see. Star Control Origins, Stardock, I think, is saying this quote, we attempted to get a preliminary art injunction to prevent them from issuing more false DMCA takedown notices. I don't think in this case it is a false notice at all. A false DMCA takedown notice would be somebody clearly and obviously knowing that they don't own the copyright to something. In this case, the creators clearly believe they do own it. It'll be for the courts to decide, certainly, but this one isn't a false one. As a YouTuber who gets all kinds of false copyright claims all the time, this isn't an instance where somebody is going to be able to fall back on fair use and say Star Control Origins is fair use, or they're not going to be able to fall back and say, oh, you don't actually own this game at all, and you knew that. I think the heart of the lawsuit is they actively don't know and think they do own. No, they actively think they do own the copyright and trademarks. There's another quote here. Let's see. From Stardock on their forum. Quote, to my knowledge, never in the history of our industry has anyone attempted to use the DMCA system to take down a shipped game before. Well, your knowledge is very limited. I'm fairly certain most people have heard of that happening. There certainly was a lawsuit before the DMCA for the game Too Human. There certainly have been DMCA issues on other Steam games. Like, Steam knew what to do. They had the lawyers write up the procedure and tell them what to do. This was not a new one for Steam or Good Old Games, both of which got DMCAs. Let's see. The quote goes on, "For those not familiar with copyright, you cannot copyright ideas, individual or short phrases, concepts, mechanics, or game designs." That's an oversimplification. That is a very oversimplification. There's a lawsuit going on right now from a video game designer against CBS because he's claiming that the new Star Trek stole his ideas, which he was publicly blogging about for his games. It's generally being called the tardigrade lawsuit. Star Trek tardigrade lawsuit. If you want to look that up too, it's interesting. So it'll be interesting to see how that case goes also. Unfortunately for that lawsuit, it really will just be CBS having an infinite amount of money to tie it up in the court forever. The article continues with Stardock, the creator of Star Control Origins, having said their piece. The original creators of Star Control series, Reich and Ford, or at least the alleged, the claimants of being the original creators of the series, Reich and Ford, have now shared their version of events and reiterated their view that Star Control Origins is substantially, quote, substantially similar to their work on Star Control 2. Starting from the top, the designers confirmed they agreed to refrain from serving new DMCA notices while a judge looked at an injunction filed by Stardock, but then after the studio's motion was denied, they had every right to push forward with their DMCA takedowns against Origins. So the judge certainly sided with the controller, the creators, original creators' right to file a DMCA. And honestly, I don't think that they even had to be that nice. I think they could have filed DMCAs. This is where it gets weird, is they could have probably filed DMCAs, like, and filed another DMCA every time the game was listed, and since they're already in legal procedures, there really was nothing I think Stardock could have done about it. Because if you file a counter notification on the DMCA and say, no, you don't own the copyright to this, and then you show, in this case Steam and Good Old Games, that you're in active legal procedures suing these people, then the game has to stay down, or the alleged infringing copyrighted material has to stay down. So it seems every bit that Star Control Origins could be off of sale for a very, very long time. Let's see. The article continues, quote, "As you might guess, we are going to continue defending our copyrights against what we feel and contend in the lawsuit is infringement by Stardock. We so served new DMCA notices late last week," commented Reich and Fork. New quote, "Stardock CEO Brad Wardell has said repeatedly you can't copyright a word, which seems to mean that if you break down creative works into its component parts, those component parts are too trivial to be protected." Star Control, I guess, I think you probably could copyright Star Control, particularly since it's not a word that was heavily used in the vernacular before the fact. Like, you probably couldn't copyright spaceship, but you can probably. Star Trek probably does own the phrase starship somewhat, at least in some instances. You can't copyright the concept of light speed because that existed and was a known phrase, but you can copyright the idea of warp drive because that was an unknown phrase. At least that's what I've heard as the explanation here. The article continues, quote, "Of course that's crazy. Copyright protects original literary and artistic words that are simply specific combinations of words or images or other content." The pair also emphasized the importance of understanding what Stardock actually purchased when it acquired the, quote, Star Trek Star Control franchise in Atari's bankruptcy auction. Indeed, they claim Stardock only bought the registration to the trademark Star Control and the copyright to the original parts of Star Control 3, which means that the original creators of Star Control cannot make a game called Star Control, or they'd be in violation of that trademark unless they can get that trademark thrown out. Let's see. Quote, the article continues, quote, "The bankruptcy paperwork was very specific that anything not listed was excluded. Not Star Control, not Star Control 2, not the unreleased Star Control 4 packaging art. None of that was included in the auction," end quote, they added. I did not quote that statement directly. I misread a couple of words, but that's basically what they said. I don't think I'm gonna win this. Getting to the nitty-gritty, the duo also claims Stardock received a copy of their 1998 contract with Star Control 3 developer Accolade, so it could understand the exact terms under which material had been licensed. The contract apparently didn't grant any additional property to Stardock, but the studio now claims it holds all of Accolade's rights and has also applied for, quote, tons of trademarks on the names of aliens Reich and Ford invented in Star Control and Star Control 2. What's more, Reich and Ford also assert that Star Control Origins has copied certain gameplay and design elements from Star Control 2, thus directly infringing upon their original work. So basically this guy has been, if you believe Reich and Ford, the original creators, Stardock has intentionally gone out of his way to try and steal the near complete entirety of their effort and their creations. Just how to get away with theft of a game is pretty much what they're claiming he's done. No. Again, it'll be for a judge to sort out this eventually. The article continues, besides the evidence of the infringement identified in the most recent filings with the court, let's compare the expression in a very limited part of the gameplay, interstellar travel. One would presume that Stardock would either make entirely new gameplay for Origins or base it on the original parts of Star Control 3 they wrote, referencing the comparison pictures table below. It is clear to us that Stardock chose to make Origins substantially similar to Star Control 2 instead of using original material they purchased in Star Control 3. We don't claim to have a copyright on all interstellar travel, but we do have a copyright on the specific way we expressed interstellar travel in Star Control 2. another quote continues, "We have seen many examples in Star Control Origins where the expressions is substantially similar to or derivative of our copyrighted protected work without our permission." Alright, what do we need to do now? Play demons? Alright, we can do that. Let's go back to this. And Zoo Warlock. So they have a picture here of Star Control 2, and it says interstellar travel uses quote hyperspace. They have a picture here of Star Control 3, and it says interstellar travel uses quote warp bubbles. And then they have a picture here of Origins, interstellar travel uses hyperspace. And then it goes into several more columns of how phrases are being used that are similar. It's really getting into the nitty gritty. Like one column here says, in Star Control 2, the interstellar travel has light red streams of light dash and a twist across the screen. So light red as in light, the color light red streams of light as in the thing you can see, dash and twist across the screen. In Star Control 3 there are no streams of light. In Origins there are light red streams of light dashing and twisting across the screen. And this goes on for about 5 columns. And that is kind of the end of this article. Pretty long one, certainly, but very informative to just try and get an idea of whether there's actually meat on this bone or whether this is just clearly I don't think there's probably any saints in this lawsuit. I think probably the Star Control original creators wanted all the license and rights of Star Control in the bankruptcy and couldn't afford it and got outbid, and or they wanted to get some money somehow out of it, and so now they are defending their copyright as they legally should, but they're also doing it probably in a way that is going to hurt the release of Star Control Origins as much as possible until they get what they want. And then the creator of Star Control Origins, Stardock, seems to not be willing to play ball with this, when really it probably would have been easy to license it, unless it really is just a matter of egos. I believe the creators of Star Control Origins also have their own game series that came out recently, so this also might very well just boil down to a case where if they can eliminate the competition and promote their own game that way, they're just going to do that. And this is an interesting from my perspective because I've never heard of Star Control. This game series is much more famous now for this lawsuit and what it could mean for copyright in the video game industry more than for being a good game or well-known game. Speaking of other games that aren't super well-known, there's this game called Town of Salem that seems to have managed to cause a data breach because they, from what I can tell and heard, just have a terrible system of security, and apparently there was a lot of chatbots just taking control of all of their forums. instead of hiring out a good security company to secure their game, they're just trying to go it their own, and that's not working well for them apparently. I actually own Town of Salem, and so now there's this slight higher reason to play that game at some point. I'll have something more to say, at least. Alright, this.
Why do you go? I meet you.
Moving on to the next article. That was a long article. Niantic closes out a $190 million investment round, follows from the year which saw Pokemon grow 35% to generate nearly $800 million in revenue. That's from GameIndustry.biz. I don't think I need to go into more detail on that. Let's see. We have a game on Steam called the Epic of the Distant Realm, which looks like it's a MS Paint adventure game. Oh yes, that was definitely a problem when I was trying to use the program Depressurize. This isn't making it to the follow list. I was trying to use Depressurized to categorize things, and so many things got tagged as action or adventure. I had to go in there and say, just don't use those labels. That really doesn't mean anything anyways, to label something an action or adventure game. Label it something different, or split up those categories. And see, Depressurize, really, I'm probably not using it right, but it does seem like it fails to do a few things that it should be able to do, and it seems like it just wants to create more and more categories and have every game in 5 different categories, which that's a bad library. If you have all the dictionaries, but you're putting dictionaries in the 3rd aisle, the 10th aisle, and the 15th aisle, just because dictionary might fit in those 5 different sections, you're not doing it right. That's why we had the Dewey Decimal System. I don't think we use that anymore. Is you would have you'd look at the index cards on a reference system, and it would say, if you're looking for this book, look here, see this in this place. Don't go where you think it's gonna be. Just gonna kill that. Actually, I didn't need to kill that. I could have just ended the turn. That would have been wiser. So yeah, there was a lot of tweaking just to get it to say, look, when you sort by genre, just give it one genre. Whatever the first genre that matches, do that. When you search by tags, just give it one tag. But then it doesn't seem like you can say only give the things that haven't been sorted that application. And it seems like it should be. Like, there's a box that says selected only. I click that box, and I assume that means that only the games that I've selected will be auto-categorized. But it's not really the case. Like, it still auto-categorizes everything, and I'm rather confused as to why it does that. But yeah, I'm not going to get back into using that program probably for at least a year or so. Maybe it'll get updated, maybe there's a glitch in it.
Protocol 7 engaged.
I imagine Kofi has been off the channel so much that I don't know when he last dropped off. Was I talking about video game news when I was playing Hearthstone? When he dropped off? Maybe, maybe not. Did I have the WebPeak installed? Almost certainly not. The WebPeak is a brand new thing that I just set up only a couple months ago. Need to play 2 more demons and then we're done. It'd be nice if I get some victories. Let's see. So I'm looking at a game on Steam called Kunoichi Botan, and it's tagged sexual content, and actually I've already heard about this game. It's an RPG maker dungeon crawler with some sex ninja girl scenes. I think we're safe to just quickly show it off. I don't think there's anything too offensive to YouTube here. So we have Kunoichi Botan. Not the best animation here, tagged with sexual content. These games are getting approved on Steam, but again, this is a ninja girl in a traditional dress, not in a schoolgirl outfit. So the games with anybody who's in a school outfit that's anime looking still have yet to be. I haven't seen anything approved since at least a couple months ago. This game is 15% off for $12.74. Yeah, Steam has either got a rogue employee or as a entity, as an entire corporation, has decided that there is a Washington state law where Valve has said that says if anime games in particular have characters in school outfits, regardless if there's any sexual content implication or whatever, if they feel like it, basically, those games are legal, and thus those games are going to be banned from Steam, even though Steam said that they weren't going to be tastemakers and they were only going to ban things that were actually illegal and or straight up trolling. And it has been an inconsistent process that they have refused to comment on ever since they started doing this. And so we've had the entire last half of 2018 be full of developers trying to put their game on Steam, only to be told that they can't sell the game. Even if it's a censored version of the game, they can't sell it often. Even if there was nothing to censor in the first place, they can't sell it often. And it's always Japanese games, with the Japanese anime style. Bully Scholarship Edition, for example, has girls in schoolgirl outfits throughout the entirety of the game. That has not been pulled from store. Although, to be fair, I've yet to see anything that was pre-approved actually be pulled from Steam. It's only new games that try to apply. But yeah, that would be the best reference there. Moving on, because I don't want to get into a rant. I've ranted about that mess for way too much. We have a game on Steam called Tower Tank TD Reversal, which is a tower defense game for $2.99, no discount. It looks horrible. That won't be making it to our fall list. I don't know if Kofi even knows about the fall list and the watch list. Because I'm looking at every single game that comes out on Steam, and this is, I guess, just a good reminder for anybody, when there's a game that looks like it might be good enough for me to want to investigate further and see how many people will play it to review it, I'll put it on the fall list. And then every now and then I'm going to have to look at the fall list and see if that game actually got a decent amount of positive reviews to promote it to the wish list, because I cleaned out my wish list throughout all of December, and now my wish list is really just games that I really want to play, which is important to have that, because at the end of my videos now I'm asking people to friend me on Steam and gift me games off my wish list as a way of supporting me. The only other way you can support me is through Patreon, and I can certainly understand why people wouldn't want to do that nowadays. But maybe people don't care either, and they're still cool with that. But YouTube certainly isn't letting me run ads or anything, so it's been a terrible, basically 10 months of no income whatsoever from YouTube, and no hope in sight that that's going to change anytime soon. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Chrono Ghost. It says it's an action-adventure indie game. Looks to me like it's more of a platformer. I'm having a hard time figuring out what goes on here, so let's watch the video, see it in motion. Yeah. This is one of those trailers where it just fades to black really quickly because there's no content here. Yeah, it seems like with the name it would be a time manipulation game, and it looks like it's a Super Meat Boy-esque hardcore platformer. I'm trying to stop calling them Super Meat Boy-esque games and call them hardcore platformers instead, and more generic title. This game is $8.99 discounted. Again, I guess I'll be generous and put this on the follow list, but in all honesty, I don't expect this one's gonna succeed. And yeah, I look at basically every single game that comes out on Steam and end up with maybe 4 that make it to the actual follow list each week. But 4 good games a week is still way higher than what reality is. 4 games that came out on Steam each week being good, not likely. So even when I look at the follow list, there's going to be a number, probably 50% of those games that aren't actually good. Speaking of probably not good, we have a game called Go Cabbies GB, Great Britain. Why would you want to be a cabbie in Great Britain? I'm really swearing off games that make you do a job. And it seems like you're driving on the wrong side of the road. No? Right side of the road?
Why do you call?
In Great Britain, you drive on the left side of the road, but a lot of times here, I'm seeing streets that I guess maybe are one-way, double-lane streets. Yeah, well, regardless of which street side of the road you're driving on, the game is just generic. It's got a little bit more polish than your standard asset flip game, and I do own Crazy Taxi, so I could understand kind of the idea of playing as a taxi, but it really does have to go wild and become a game like Crazy Taxi, and not a game where you're actually just being a cabbie and having to drive people around. That's just boring. We don't need to prepare children for their inevitable future of only being able to work for Uber and similar places. Next we have a game on Steam called Steel Life, which is a point-and-click adventure game. It's impressed me immediately with the graphics because I'm a sucker for point-and-click adventures. So I'm gonna put this on the follow list, and we'll see how people respond to it. Point-and-click adventures in particular have this issue, certainly, where they can look pretty good but actually be pretty bad. So it comes down to the writing, it comes down to the delivery, the voice acting, if there is voice acting, which this is an English-Russian game, so it's a little questionable. Also, apparently this was a Steam Greenlight game, so this has been out for development for a very long time. $5.09 discounted. I'll put it on the follow list, and we'll see what the people who actually buy the game review it at. Okay. Am I discarding cards? There we go. Next we have a game on Steam called I'm Turkey, which looks like a low effort platformer. Student project. Not a real game. 59 cents discounted, so obviously not a quality product that interests me. Next we have a game on Steam called Hail to the King, which looks like it's a puzzle slash chess game. Oh. But I don't understand how this actually plays. It seems like there's just randomness here. Is all it seems like. Seems like you're intentionally just always going to lose because it's designed to make you lose. Yeah, I just don't see anything here that has enough polish to make it to the follow list. Seems like it's a half-baked idea. Gamer Sutra has an article. Games now account for over half of the entire UK entertainment market. The UK games industry was worth £3.86 billion, or $4.85 billion US in 2018, which is double the combined 3.67 billion pounds, or 4.62 billion US value of the country's video and music industries. Which, let's face it, the UK's video and music industries have not been doing hot lately. So British TV in particular, you like it, but it's never great. It never has the kind of budget that you would like it to have. It never has the kind of funding you would like it to have. That's why
Reporting for duty.
So often these British shows will come over to the UK, have slightly better budget, and be well better received by people in the United States than the British versions, on top of just general localization issues. The Office is a great example of that. People are totally obsessed and love the US version of The Office. The UK version of The Office is, in my opinion, nowhere as good. It's doing a completely different thing. But yeah, video games are a big deal in the UK. We'll see what happens to the UK in the over the course of the next couple of years with their Brexit issue. Moving on, Gematsu has another goal. A game called Conarium, C-O-N-A-R-I-U-M, for PS4 and Xbox One launches in February. It's a Lovecraftian horror game. It's been announced by Zoetrope Interactive.
Reporting for duty.
And it was on the PC. It launched on the PC June 2018. Oh, well. If that's the case, then that gives me a slight reason to maybe play that game if I own it, which I probably don't. Although, to be fair, in the last 30 days, it's gotten a 55% positive. Let's play here. So here's Conarium on Steam, and you can see 55% of 34 users rated positively in the last 30 days, whereas over its lifetime it's been 79%. So I wonder what the most recent problems are. It looks like it's short. It has a Metacritic of 71. Let's see. Says we have a review here. Everything was right, graphics were great, but style was Lovecraftian. Then you reach the caves below the base and get stuck in the terrain once. Not a problem, restart the game, reload a save. Then again 1 minute after, then again until you give up. Every time there's an event, cinematic, etc., you end up glued to the ground. It's been more than a year, and this problem has been reported by many gamers. Devs don't seem to care. Do not buy. You've been warned. Okay, so Conarium doesn't seem like it's a game that's being treated well in the process of the developers porting it to consoles. Let's see. Here's a review that says 5-hour walking simulator, barely worth $5. I think it's kind of consistent here as we're loading into the Asian account that
Back from your adventures?
a lot of these games that heavily are obsessed with Lovecraftian stuff are not that good. And I think there's a slight reason for that. Like, I think if you're obsessed with other artists' creations, H.P. Lovecraft's creations in this example, you're probably not being super creative yourself. We need to play as the hunter or the mage. It'd be probably better to play as the hunter because that will allow me to play smaller characters, which I also need to do. So yeah, when there's so many games on Steam that have Lovecraftian in the description or in the name, and very, very few of them are good. So I'm gonna leave this off my follow list, and we'll see. I kind of want to see what Zoetrope Interactive has made also on Steam. And you can't do that anymore because Steam has changed everything. I can only see what the publisher has published. And what the publisher has published doesn't look like it's too much anyways. Okay, so this is my spell hunter deck. I'm not gonna play any minions here. So I'm looking at the publisher's list of games that they published, and I've yet to see anything that looks familiar, anything that I've put on my wish list, and I'm 4 pages in. Yeah, I've literally looked at everything that they've they've published as a publisher, and not a single one of their games looks recognizable. So that's another nail in the coffin for that game. Moving on to the next article, Gamma Sutra has an article. Bethesda resolves its copyright lawsuit against the Westworld developers. If you don't remember this story, I don't blame you. Bethesda Softworks, a very litigious company, sued the developers of Westworld because the developers of Westworld, I think pretty obviously, stole Fallout Shelter and made their own version. So this was a lawsuit brought against Behavior Interactive and Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers makes a lot of video games, not specifically the best video games always. Warner Brothers also owns TT Games, the makers of the Lego games that are always terrible to run on my PC, but work really well on consoles where you probably should be playing them. And Warner Bros. Also made like the latest Batman Arkham Asylum game, which was a huge failure as far as quality. Guess we play this?
Your soul shall suffer.
Let's see. Bethesda released a statement earlier today claiming it had reached an agreement with Behavior, although no further information was given. This article continues to go on for about 6 sentences, but I don't see there's really any reason to go any further than that. Like, they're not going to give any information as far as how the settlement went down, but clearly a settlement was reached. And I'm sure Bethesda got some money out of it.
There is a method to my madness.
We have a game on Steam here called Riddles of the Owl's Kingdom of Magic, which is a Picross matching style of game where it's just Picross drawing in things. Pretty low effort game. Doesn't look terrible, but doesn't look great. Selling for a discounted $4.79. That's not making it to the list though. This and here we go.
Extraordinary.
That's what we need. We need this.
This one will prove very useful. Probably.
TechRaptor has an article. Mario officially holds 7 jobs, Nintendo says. So let's get to what the 7 jobs Mario has. Now, the latest story I had heard, and of course you should just not take any of this seriously. It's always been BS. And Mario can be whoever and whatever they want him to be. He's not even really much of a personality or character. As long as you don't have Mario like strangling the princess or something completely out of character, you can do anything with him. But the story before was Mario and all the characters in the Mario games were actors, and thus they were just putting on plays. That's what Super Mario Bros. 3 certainly makes it seem like. And even Super Mario Bros. 2 in the United States made it seem like that, although that game was also said to be a dream. Let's see. So the 7 jobs that he holds apparently at the same time are plumber, doctor, racer, martial artist, professional baseball player, soccer player, and basketball player. Which this probably is 100% just the combination of like all the jobs they said Mario had at any one point throughout like the entirety of games that involve Mario. But it's actually a little bit off, I think, because you have Jumpman and Donkey Kong, who's not really Mario. Okay, but let's say that. Then you had the arcade Mario Brothers, where they were plumbers. Mario and Luigi were named there. Then you have Super Mario Brothers, where assumedly he's still a plumber at that point. Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Bros. 3. At some point there, pretty quickly though, you would have had Mario Golf. So there should be a professional golfer listed as the next thing in the timeline. There definitely was Mario Golf was before Dr. Mario came out, and most definitely before Mario Kart came out. Now, also you would have Punch Out, where Mario is working as a referee. So that too makes no sense. Let's see, how are we gonna do this? Add a coin to your hand. Let's go. Let's do this.
Hunt alone.
I can't do anything with that anyways, so.
I hunt alone.
Let's go ahead and hit that one for free. And hit that one for free. And then hit that one.
Job's done.
Demons are hard to find.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't even know a game where Mario's a martial artist. Mario Basketball? As a basketball player?
Shadow.
There probably was a basketball game on NES, but I don't recall Mario being in it. Soccer? I guess maybe there was a soccer game on NES, but again, I don't recall Mario being in it. Baseball, I'm fairly certain I have seen in a baseball game. Let's see. Let's see. Can we do this? Yeah, we can do this. And we can do this.
The eternal hunt has begun.
Let's see, what do I need? What else are we going for here? Get rid of damage. And then in the turn.
Thank you.
Let's go and squelch this guy. Let's see. This TechRaptor article continues after that list. It goes, they're about as confused as I am. This list of jobs raises more questions than answers. To start medical school typically involves 12 years of intense training, including actually practicing medicine. That's a tough one by far. The martial arts and sports can be covered by a strangely good fitness, and racer can equally be covered by his uncharacteristic sharp reflexes. What's notable is that this official list isn't all-inclusive. There have been lots of games involving Mario over the years. He had a stint on the Demolition Crew and Wrecking Crew, as a referee in Punch-Out, as an educator in Mario Teaches Tomping, and a whole lot more after starting in construction in Donkey Kong. Granted, some of these may have been hobbies. Now that's the list that would be truly impressive to see. Yeah, I don't know why they would have even gone down this route and made this announcement.
I wonder.
Let's do this. We need something big.
Sent whose fate.
Let's see.
An easy target.
Just in the turn there. Next we have a game on Steam called Laser Maze, which is probably a cheap, low effort laser game. Yep. No surprise there. Pictures don't even want to load. $4.99, not discounted at all. This is obviously one of those games that we don't have to spend any focus on. Alright. So, let's double check that we did the Tavern Brawl. We did. We need to win with the Hunter or Mage 3 times and play minions that cost 2 or less. Playing as the Hunter is not going to work for this, so I should play as the Mage. Here we go. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Surreal Subway. So a horror game with a subway background, it says. Not much of a description there. Not much of an effort on the name either.
Jaina versus
Like
Rexa.
a scary subway sequence would probably spook a few people who ride the subway, but that's pretty much just the people in New York and nobody else. So I don't think you could stretch it out into a game that appeals to everybody. Otherwise, this looks like it's just probably an asset flip game. They're getting better and better though. This is $3.99 and requires VR. And that's an incredibly low price for a VR game. Usually VR games start at least $8, even if they're terrible. Next we have a game on Steam called Terrible Beast from the East. It's already at 48% positivity, so people are not liking it. It doesn't look terrible from what it looks like, but clearly it probably doesn't play that well. It's $1.19 discounted. It's English and Chinese, so I'm guessing that it's a cheap Chinese game. Yep. Next we have what I think may go down as one of the most ridiculous games I've seen in a long time. We have a game on Steam called Panty Slider Vr, and it's anime girls at the end of basically a slip and slide in VR, and you're trying to slide under their legs and get upskirt shots of their underwear in VR, discounted for $4.49. So that's what you call at least a slightly more imaginative asset flip low effort game. But I don't think that's something that would sell well, frankly. Asian countries in particular do not take looking up people's skirts lightly at all. And so a game that encourages that or allows that is gonna be unacceptable for Asian countries, and frankly that's your target demographic also. for the most part. So you've missed the mark there. I think. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. CVAA accessibility rules come into effect for games as FCC waiver expires. A waiver offering video games temporary exemption from the Communications and Video Game Accessibility Act of 2010 has expired, meaning the games released after the expiration date of December 31st, 2018 have a set of new communication-focused rules to keep in mind to stay on the up and up with the FCC. Now, right now, you could basically do anything you want because the FCC is not going to bring it up or complain about it, but that might change with a change in administration at any point in the United States. So what are these rules?
To my side.
Let's see. They could get fined. The International Game Developers Association has already shared some information about how the CVAA will affect games released in 2019 and beyond. The CVAA requires that communication functionality like in-game chat and UI used to navigate or operate those elements must be accessible to people of varying sight, motor, speech, cognitive, and hearing ability. The requirements themselves are outlined in the full legislation, specifically Section 14.21. Let's see. Let's do this. Though, for example, of features the FCC is after, at the time of the final waiver extension, the Commission called out accessibility communication options added to games like Splatoon 2 and Minecraft, like smartphone apps and text-to-speech tools, as a step in the right direction. So Minecraft added a feature about a year and a half ago where if you were deaf, you could turn on a function that would tell on screen what sounds were being made and point in the direction those sounds are coming from. I'm not specifically sure what Splatoon did to be accessible. If anything, the argument would be Splatoon was very inaccessible because it really didn't have in-game chat at all. The problem that I always feel about with this, and I think people's hearts are in the right place, but I think there is a level of practicality. I see the same issue with the Xbox accessibility controller that came out, is that, yeah, that might be helpful for a few people who have different, who are differently abled or have disabilities. I'm not going to try and speak politically correct here. But frankly, there are certainly some people that are just never going to be able to play a video game, regardless of what you do. You can try as hard as you want, but it's just never going to happen. And that's just how reality is. There certainly are some things, though, that the video game industry has not been focused on, specifically like subtitles that are actually readable, that aren't 20 lines of text that are only on the screen for half a second, ability to adjust brightness, adjust UI resolutions. I play video games on my TV that's 10 feet away. It's about a 40-inch TV, so that's fine for the most things, but I can't see the word fireball right now when it's zoomed out like that. I just see letters. I could lower the resolution on of the game or my monitor and make it slightly bigger, but there are certainly some issues, particularly for video games. motor ability is going to be a thing that you just are not going to be able to really adjust for. But some of that too certainly could be could be worked on. For instance, games that just have ridiculous button mashing or quick time events. I think a lot of people, even without much lack of motor functions, probably would be happy to get rid of quick time events. So if you could disable that, that would be great. I have a little bit of arthritis in my hands, so there are some games certainly where it's like the entirety of the gameplay mechanic revolves around the idea of button mashing or holding down a thumbstick for a prolonged amount of time. And we can certainly see that the esports pro players are not doing themselves any favors with repetitive stress injuries. So yeah, there's a lot of work there. I only played like 4 of 20 of those cards. I'm not sure I'm gonna get that daily quest done, but I have to get everything done today, so I'll do it off screen. Otherwise, next we have a game on Steam called Crystal Chameleon, which is tagged an indie adventure game, and to me it seems like it's probably a visual novel done by a Westerner on a Western art style. Doesn't seem like there's a ton of dialogue in here. You want to talk about small text? There's some small text. Which honestly probably isn't that good, and that is a drastically different art style that they're using here than the rest of the game. But I'll give this one a chance and put it on the fall list. It doesn't have full audio, it is a visual novel, it said so right here. So I'll put this on the fall list, but I imagine nobody will ever buy this to give it enough reviews. Alright. I'm still going around in circles with visual novels. Am I gonna cover any of them? Am I not? Do I want to cover Western style ones, or do I want to just focus on the 99% that are made from Japan for Japan?
Someday I'll be just like you.
Gotcha. Next we have a game on Steam called the Far Kingdoms Elements, which is just a Candy Crush clone style match 3 games with hidden objects features on top of it, so you can do a little bit more than just match 3. It's discounted for $5.59, and that still is an incredibly high price for what is effectively just a hidden object game. Next we have a game on Steam called Lost Artifacts Gold Island. This is a resource management, play and wait style mobile game that basically looks like a mobile port. Although it's weird, I never really see these games on cell phones. I only see them on Steam and think, this has got to be a mobile port. Nothing here looks impressive. It's discounted for $8.99. 40% discount and just barely out of the door. A lot of these games are always on discount. GameIndustry.biz has an article, quote, "Not enough evidence," end quote, that screen time is harmful to children. UK's first screen time guidance report recommends parents manage gaming and TV sessions based on kids' individual needs. Let's see. So this article goes on, but I mean, the thing here is you've got a lot of different people with a lot of different moneyed interests in saying that TV and video games or video games actually are harmful to children, and a lot of histrionics here. Certainly in China, there was nearly 6 months, it felt like, where no game was approved in China because they were afraid that video games were causing myopia and damaging the eyesight of children in China. At least that was their claim. It's not really the reason, but that is certainly cast inner fire on every minion in the deck. Set attack equal to health. Interesting.
What was lost can be found again.
We'll see how that works.
I found it first.
That's an interesting card. But yeah, also you can't be ridiculous here. I think before it even becomes an issue with the children's eyesight or something else like that, it becomes at most an issue about are the parents of a child being involved with them and interacting with them, or are they just sitting them in front of the TV? Because there's been at least a couple generations of bad parents who've just sat their kids in front of the TV, and that has negative effects in the long run with the ability to socialize, the ability to interact, your level of activity, the early childhood obesity, which leads to other problems like early diabetes and such. So the thing about kids that I think everybody could easily use as a guideline is just keep what they're doing pretty varied. Like, watch an hour of TV, go out and play in the backyard for an hour. Read a book for an hour. Just try to keep it varied. Don't be obsessive. Don't do the same thing all night. And I know kids are not gonna like that, but you got Pokemon Go now. At least you could say, hey, play video games on the couch for an hour and then go catch your Pokemon at the park. So at least you could use that. But yeah, the UK, it's kind of surprising the UK report didn't even find anything here, so this is probably a real scientific study. It says the study was based on 109 children and young people between the ages of 11 and 24 years old who spent on average 2.5 hours on a computer, laptop, or tablet, 2 hours on a phone, and 2 hours watching TV per day, which is over 6.5 hours of screen time. And so you've got a pre-selected group of people using a lot of screen time there, and although that probably is about average for people these days, and they couldn't find any evidence. But certainly there is a lot of people out there, a lot of interests that would have just made up a result and said, yep, it's bad. And like, even TV would certainly go after video games, or music would go after video games, and just a naked attempt to get them to do something else. The comic books might go after video games in a similar way. Although at this point a lot of industries have given up on that too. Video games being the biggest entertainment form industry now, bigger than movies. Moving on, GameIndustry.biz has an article. The Blizzard's CFO, Chief Financial Officer, was poached by Square Incorporated. Amrita Ahuja moves on from developer after 8 years. So, Activision Blizzard is hemorrhaging employees right now, and I wouldn't be surprised. In a weird way, we're playing an Activision Blizzard game right now. I wouldn't be surprised if it's by the end of the year, it's not even possible to play Hearthstone. Like, it's not likely that would happen, but Activision Blizzard are gonna have to do some major changes to stop the hemorrhaging that is happening. But we'll see what happens, I suppose. Let's see. GameIndustry.biz has this article. Let's see if we can get the real story yet. No. So we'll get to that story in a second. Let's open up some of these other things first. GameIndustry.biz has a different article. Rebellion acquires Tik-Tok Games. This Yorkshire-based studio will be rebranded as Rebellion North. So the developer of the Sniper Elite series has got Tik-Tok Games. Let's see. I don't know what Tik-Tok Games has done particularly, though. Tik-Tok Games worked on a variety of games in its 12-year history. In addition to the Cricket Captain series, it also partnered with Team 17 on Worms World Party and the BBC on Top Gear Stunt School, as well as collaborating with Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, and NVIDIA. So it was a third-party developer who they acquired. No big deal. That happens almost all the time.
What to do?
Break the ice. Job done.
Let's see. GameIndustry.biz has a different article. The number of Steam users with VR headset almost doubled in 2018, but it still only represents 0.8% of the leading marketplace's total audience. I still very much feel like VR is dead in the water, and really has been for decades. Like every time it's tried. But interesting, Nintendo did agree to be like a quote-unquote observer and silent partner in this VR-based company, so maybe there will be some kind of Nintendo VR twist in their next console whenever that gets made in 5 to 7 years. You know, I've started to get to the point where I think I might actually get a Switch once the Switch stops being the big thing. Like, I'll get like a used one once the next thing comes out. And get some of the old games that I haven't played. Because I really stopped playing Nintendo games since the Wii. So...
Starlight.
So if I could catch up, that might be interesting. Although, where am I getting this time to do this? We have a game I can't show you on Steam called Oppai Girl. That's O-P-P-A-I, which is Japanese for cleavage, breasts. It is your standard low effort slide puzzle game with anime girls in bikinis, or maybe topless in some of these. It is tagged with nudity and sexual content. Like really easy slide puzzles with 6 pieces. Very much just like unimpressive in every way. The art is all over the place. It's questionable in my mind whether they even license the art. And we've seen so many of these games, and they get approved. And it's so weird that if it's a high quality Japanese visual novel that has less than what one of these games has, it seems to not get approved. Yet these get approved right away. So there's clearly a double standard being applied here. Although maybe it's just again the case that since these images start with them already in a level of undress, they are not seeing any school outfits. Although I'm literally seeing a picture where it's a anime girl in her underwear sitting on top of what looks like either a maid outfit or a schoolgirl outfit. So I don't know what the difference there is. Opie Girl, by the way, is discounted to 59 cents, the, I believe, lowest price you can set a game these days. So, yeah, that's there for anybody dumb enough to want to buy one of those games and support a growing industry of low-effort game developers, quote-unquote, who are just out to fraud, to trick you out of your money.
Uther. I will fight with honor.
You asked for it.
Next we have a game on Steam called Brave Land Heroes. It looks like it's a hex grid based free-to-play early access game. Price looks good, free-to-play. Looks like it might have been like an iPad style game. It doesn't really look like it has anything too interesting though. It's just like an RPG where you're just gonna battle after battle after battle, and I bet there's very little story here. But people seem to like it. Now when you look at free to play, always want to make sure if it has in-app purchases or not. And this one does. So you know it may be free to start, but it may not be free for very long. It might start demanding those in-app purchases really fast. Okay, so GameIndustry.biz had this article.
We have turned our thirst into our strength.
It says right now, reselling unauthorized game keys is now illegal in Japan. And then the subtitle of the article is Update. Law amended to combat illegitimate serial code sales in online auctions. Penalty ranges from 5 million yen fine to a jail sentence. So the way they were reporting it, and I think this probably is just chalked up to a mistranslation or misunderstanding on their part, and then just bad journalism. It's their UK editor reporting on this. Japan is very like pro copyright. It's really bad in Japan, worse than even the United States. That being said, this is really, as I see it, and as I had figured it would be, it's about people hacking games or generating game codes illegitimately, not purchasing a game code and then trading it or selling it. But that too might be something that is frowned upon, and definitely frowned upon. In Japan in particular, they love to screw the Japanese people and charge them ridiculously high prices for things. It's way too expensive to live in Japan, particularly in Tokyo, where a lot of people have to live because that's where they work and have to work.
An incredible discovery!
We have many secret.
Job's done.
Darn it. I already had one of those. That was I suppose what to try, though. Let's see. Let's see. 3 acts have now been banned according to this article. Distributing tools and programs for altering save data, which I assume this probably means altering save data to unlock a game so it goes from like a trial version to a full version, because if it's just straight up you can't hack your save file to give yourself infinite lives, that's kind of sucky. Selling serial numbers or product keys that are unauthorized by the maker of the software in online auctions. Seems to be oddly specific only in online auctions. And offering services that modify save data on a customer's behalf. At the bottom of this article it says, correction, the original version of this article suffered from a mistranslation claiming that all game keys, even those purchased legitimately, were illegal to resell. The article has been amended. So, yeah. It sounded really crazy when I first read it. Let's see. GameIndustry.biz has a different article. Square Enix's president promises a year of, quote, aggressive expansion overseas. Publisher will relaunch dormant Indian subsidiary and look to work with the Chinese developers and publishers. I think this is insane that Yosuke Matsuda wants to do this in 2019, where 2019 very possibly could be a terrible year for video games, and for Square Enix in particular. They just lost their guy who was in charge of making Final Fantasy 15. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. That's yet to be seen. But they just released The Quiet Man. They're failing to get the remake of Final Fantasy VII. They really got nothing going on that's been majorly successful. Square Enix's Deus Ex Mankind Divided, not super popular. I don't know where this rapid growth comes from, unless it is just a complete total desire to waste money, because that really is what it feels like, is that he's got money to burn. Oh, you know what? I could probably have just hit him in the head with 2 fireballs and would have won. And I don't know why they're expanding into the Indian Indian video game industry. That's like a baby industry, and India really doesn't have the money to be investing in, really. And China is a no-go always, because China will ban the sale of games at random points for half a year, or ban the licensing of games for over half a year, like they did. But the thing about both China and India, and what is probably all he can see, is he sees, well, there's a ton of Indian people and there's a ton of Chinese people, so that means that they're going to be the new consumers. This is the same mistake that Hollywood makes all the time, is, well, we'll just get all these Chinese people to watch our movies, and that'll make all of our money. And it's like, you can't really guarantee that's what's gonna happen. Like, You're going into uncharted
Gul'dan.
waters, and the thing about Japanese companies, I'm happy with Japanese video game companies and Japanese companies in general when they make their product for a Japanese audience like they have always been doing, and it just is good quality enough and translates well enough that people outside of Japan can appreciate it too. I would hate to see particularly the anime industry start pandering to the West. When you get that, you get things like the Netflix Death Note movie or the Netflix Bleach movie, which, I mean, live action versions of Japanese movies have always sucked, but that's pretty bad. Or you get Neo Yokio, which is just a disaster on Netflix. So, same thing in the United States too. I want people in the United States developing games to focus on a Western United States style audience and make the games that were popular, that are popular in that area. And if they're good, which at one time they were, that will have a broader appeal instead of pandering. Moving on though, we have a game on Steam called Let's Learn Japanese Hiragana. My opinion on education software, particularly for learning Japanese, is still the same. This looks like a very low effort game, and the thing about Japanese is you don't need to learn how to write things or read things. You need to know how to speak them and what they sound like, and no game is going to really help you with that too much. You need a fluent native Japanese speaker willing and able to teach you how to hear and speak Japanese before you even start to think about being able to write or read it. In the same way that babies hear their parents speak and learn to speak way before they learn how to write or read. It's just how human beings work. Where did this... Why didn't he die? Alright, well, let's do this. Next we have a game on Steam called War of the Three Kingdoms. This looks like a cell phone port of a game, and it doesn't look particularly interesting. Just a slight war, kind of tower defense, player versus player type game. Early access for $2.09 discounted, and in-app purchases. Yep. And this is probably a cheap Chinese game, if I was to guess. We've been certainly seeing a lot more of those since China stopped allowing them to be even sold in China because of the license freeze. So maybe with the signs of the end of the license freeze, we'll get back to having less of them on Steam, but I doubt it. I don't think there's any going back.
Incredible discovery! I found it first!
Next we have a game on Steam called Snails, which looks like it is a weirdly animated game. This is probably like some programmer got 20% to the point where it was a reasonable start for a game and then decided to sell it instead of finishing it. Like, yeah, this feels very much like a first pass 3D model, and not even by modern programming ability or systems. It just looks horrible. $3.49. Of course, that's not making it to the wish list.
Many secrets.
Let's see.
I found it first!
Next we have a game on Steam called Paradise Checkers VR, which is a VR game. Usually they don't depict all the screenshots like this. This is shows you don't even know how to make your game so you can make a proper screenshot outside of VR. Tabletop Simulator, almost certainly better than this. This is $4.99, whereas I think Tabletop Simulator was on sale for $4.99 during the winter sale. So, yeah, you don't need VR to play checkers. You're not getting any advantage to that idea.
For $1.
I found it first.
Go ahead and hit that.
There is a method to my madness.
GameIndustry.biz has an article. The UK video games market is now 80% digital. However, 75% of AAA game sales are physical. So that tells you that a significant amount of games that are purchased in the UK are not the AAA games. Interesting. So, yeah. That's not super surprising, though. I felt like every single AAA game that came out in 2018 felt like it had some kind of caveat to it. Some reason why it was just not as good as it should have been.
For $1.
This. 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 And this. And that.
Job's done.
Next we have a game on Steam called Endless Battle. It's already mixed. It must be a free-to-play game. It's probably a cheap Chinese game too. Let's see, yep. English full audio, simplified Chinese. I've been noticing a trend where they don't even bother to put traditional Chinese anymore in-app purchases. So that might be a new indicator that I'm going to have to keep an eye out and see if that is typically the case, that cheap Chinese games versus good Chinese games, the good ones have traditional Chinese in there as a language option. The cheap ones don't. And to be fair, Endless Battle looks good, but they quite often do, because often it's just a developer who has been allowed to copy and paste animation models and code directly and just violate copyright laws like crazy.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Let's see. Just leave this.
Here's it'll break.
I'm yawning. I'm getting sleepy. But I'm getting sleepy at close to the right time. TechRaptor has that same article. They phrase it: console modding and save game editors now illegal in Japan. So apparently, console modding games so that they could play copies of games, I guess would be the idea there. Like, but maybe any kind of console modding.
Job's done.
So yeah. Like, I think Shinzo Abe, the Prime Minister of Japan, is lame duck season, and like I had heard he had re-enabled like whaling, even though most Japanese people don't even like the taste of whale meat or eat it. But there are people, money interests certainly, that want whaling to be legal and subsidized if they can get it. I'm sure. Game Sutra has an article, get a job. Infinity Ward is hiring a senior audio software engineer. So if you think you can do that job, it's in Woodland Hills, California. Check out Gamma Sutra and for the link. Let's see.
Many secrets.
TechRaptor has an article. It's updated in brackets. Town of Salem players' accounts have been compromised. Now this is weird because I have this game but I've never launched it, so I don't know if my account somehow is compromised. There's a quote here: we found and removed 3 different PHP files from our web server that allow the hacker to have a backdoor to our server. Rackspace is also running a malware check on all of our servers. We believe we have stopped their ability to continue gathering data, but we are in the process of contacting security auditing firms and potentially discussing reinstalling all of our servers from scratch just to be 100% sure. So from what I've heard, Town of Salem is just wasn't doing the right thing with security. Nearly 8 million users were affected. If you played, the original story starts, if you played Town of Salem at some point in the game's lifespan, chances are you just had your account data breached. So I suppose I probably should never play Town of Salem. I don't think it's actually that interesting a game anyways, but I should double look into that and see. Yep, and how are we on? Need to play a couple more cards and 1 more victory. So theoretically, if I can get 1 more victory, that would be good. I'm almost done. I have about 10 more games and articles. TechRaptor has an article, Black Mirror Bandersnatch Review, hyphen Dead End Drive. I'm going to jump down to the bottom and see if they gave it a number. I reviewed it. They gave it a 6.5 good. Summary says, Black Mirror Bandersnatch nobly introduces interactive storytelling to the masses, but anyone familiar with the genre will find this adventure lacking. The pros are an authentic 80s presentation. Great side characters. I think it probably had too many side characters, and simple mechanics. I don't think the simple mechanics were a pro, honestly. The cons are drug trips aplenty, a completionist mindset, so if you want to see everything, and there's too many false choices. Yes, there's like, they're all false choices pretty much. In a lot of cases, but there are definitely some that literally you're given a choice and then it says no, you're wrong, do the other thing. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Flowers in the Dark. Now this is interesting because here you have a chibi kinda anime girl in a school outfit, and here you have an anime girl in the school outfit. And do you know why this game is probably allowed on Steam? Because it's Chinese and not Japanese. Right there. Chinese only. So a lot of times in the video game industry, it's straight up just straight, not that we hate anime, or not that we hate anime that depicts anime girls. It's straight up, we just hate Japanese people. We hate Japanese games. And that's why if you go back and listen to anybody's any Western developers 10 out of Games of the Year list. Like, go look at how many of them have Monster Hunter World in it, or Dragon Ball Fighter Z. Maybe it'll have that. But there was as many good Japanese games as there were Western games, and most of them will be ignored completely. It is just the way things have somehow become. It's sad. But I guess that's also two separate issues. There's an issue of Western video game journalists intentionally ignore Japanese games and are usually vocally anti-Japanese games, and then Steam being intentionally anti-Japanese games while holding Chinese games and Russian games to a much lower standard. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Cross Tricks. This is just Scrabble. It's horrible, horrible looking game. That's not making it to the list. Okay, and if we want to talk troll games that should have not been on Steam, we have a game on Steam here called Toddler Shooter. How a game called Shooter, or with toddler in the name, did not get red flagged and looked at before it was approved shows just a lack of quality control in many other ways for Steam and Valve. It's like, clearly somebody should be looking at every single name, or at the very least all of these names, these things should be filtered through a list, a better list than what they have. This is clearly just a troll game for $1.19. No way I'd ever find that. Let's see if I play this. And then hit this. There we go. Next we have a game on Steam called Visionarium. Now this looks very interesting. This is not an art style I've seen a lot of. Now a lot of times I'll see these 3D neon games that just look horrible to look at. That's not what I'm seeing here. This is a very wireframe animation style, I guess is what you would call it. It seems to shimmer at a beat, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is like musical. Yeah, it says it's a visionary music driven VR journey. It's $6.29, but requires VR. So I put all the VR games that I might be interested in playing, and I would say this one is one on the fall list, but I never promote them to the wish list because I probably will never have VR. But the good news is we're starting to see some trends of developers eventually deciding that it's not worth it to be exclusively VR, and they'll remove the VR requirement and allow you to play it with VR if you choose to. So I'll put this on the follow list and hope that that's the case. Next we have an article. GameIndustry.biz has this article. Slightly Mad, which is a company, is developing a standalone VR supportive console. This Slightly Mad studio is the developers of Project Cars 2, and they're calling it the Mad Box. And they say it will ship in about 3 years and won't court exclusives. This is insane, literally. It's literally refusing to learn from like the mistakes that Valve did with the Steam machines, which that Steam machines were a thing like 2 years ago. You're not gonna go against the Xbox, the PlayStation, the Wii, the Switch, like, and make a fourth competitor in the console market, while also claiming to have such high specs that you're competing with a high-end PC. It's just insane. So, slightly mad, I suppose, is living up to their namesake, is about all you can say here. Let's see.
We have
Play
many
this,
secrets.
play
We have
this.
many secrets.
Return. Next we have a game on Steam called Slime Researcher. Looks like it's a student project looking game. It's just lacking in texture detail, the solid brown backgrounds. Nothing particularly interesting here. Catch my eye. The only thing that catches my eye is this thumbnail, and clearly this thumbnail is in no way in line with the visuals of the rest of the game. Early access for $4.99 with no discount. I don't really mind the game not being discounted, but I question like the reasoning behind some of the pricings in general of games. Next we have this game called Strange and Weird Museum, which seems to be statues that are running towards you. You have to hit them and smash them. Weird.
I wonder.
This is VR required? Yes. $8.99. I'll put this on the fall list, but this is probably an asset flip garbage game. See, the thing is, it kind of feels like what they're trying to do is the Doctor Who angels that stop moving when you look at them, but they don't, in this case, actually stop moving when you look at them. So,
Runs out on me.
yeah, I don't know what the deal there is. Oh, and the last article I have is a TechRaptor article. Stardock selling Star Control Origins via their site for $20. I already talked about this earlier, but they do disclose TechRaptor works with Stardock for affiliate partnerships and makes a small commission off the purchase made from some links in this article. So yeah, TechRaptor and their affiliate links, and honestly, that is not something I think I would want to do, is have affiliate links to video games if I had a website. I don't think I'd partner with video game companies. I think I'd probably be selling Wendy's or something like that. Let's see, we can play one more Hunter game and then we'll be done for the day and done for the weekend. I'm on the Humble store and we'll just look here and see if there's anything specifically important to the mention. No, the Humble store still has the Stardock 2019 bundle, which they're apparently trying to make money all over the place.
Rexa versus
And I can go back to my
I must protect Bovine.
Twitter
Let
feed
the hunt
and
begin.
we can just scroll down Twitter and see if there's any new news that happened before we started streaming or while we were streaming. Otherwise, we are done. Let's see. Let's see. As a new game, but honestly, if we don't cover all the games, we can just talk about it on Monday. Episode 72 of Borderlands aired on my channel. I'm not sure that was right, but maybe that was the right one there. I hope that was the right number. It probably was. Let's see. Yeah, I think Borderlands and Hearthstone are the only things airing on my channel this week, and then Monday we'll start with The Room 2 to make a little bit more air, but not by much. Let's see. No, I think I've just hit all the tweets that I have seen. So in 3-4 hours of streaming, basically nothing has happened. We're still in that New Year scenario where there's just not a lot going on. Which is understandable. We can't say too much about it. It's just, yeah, that's how it's gonna be. Do I want to attack this guy, or do I want to wait? I think I probably just want to wait. See, the weird thing I still have with Twitter is, like, I'll scroll down and then I'll have to scroll down to a certain point to which it starts reloading new content again. So it'll show me all the content I've seen already and then decide to show me some new content later. Yeah, I kind of wish that there was a replacement for Twitter that I could use, but I don't know what the What's on Steam Twitter feed would, where else I could get it. And honestly, I've muted so many people now that it actually works rather well for me. It's like I am only seeing stuff I really want to see, and everything else is very much just getting ignored and muted. I had to mute quite a lot of people to do it, and I've kind of curated who I was following in the first place. So, but also Twitter fails to be much of a social media site. It really isn't. It's just me looking at advertisement, or people advertising themselves, and I just, whenever I tweet, I'm just advertising myself. Absolutely. So I don't know what the real motivation is for an average person who doesn't have a YouTube channel to have a Twitter account in the first place. It's not like your family and friends are going to be there. Let's see. It's just about the charm. But on the other hand, Facebook doesn't really work either as a content creator, because we know straight up, it's been said that Facebook won't promote your content unless you pay them. There you go. See, Twitch Prime's January lineup is gonna include at least one game that I think I've wanted to get for a long time, but if I get it on the Twitch launcher, I basically don't own it. I mean, I do technically own it, but I have 1,000 games on Steam. To try and keep anything organized, it all has to be on Steam. So I'm just gonna buy the game a second time at some point before. Alright. This. And this. And this. And I could do all kinds of things too, but I could also just do this at some point if necessary. See, TechRaptor has an article. What Remains of Edith Finch is going to be free on the Epic Games Store starting January 10th. The Epic Games Store is still definitely trying to bring people over to it. The Capital Wasteland mod for Fallout 4 resumes work on. Right, so we've gotten everything done. Let's just double check that we've done the Tavern Brawl. And I'm just gonna try and see. Oh, here we go. Gamatsu ESRB rates Catherine for PC. So Catherine is coming out for PC. We'll talk about that on Monday. Yeah, just now I'm starting to see new content. Let's see if there's anything else on this slow, kind of sleepy Friday. It's sleepy because I'm sleepy. Let's see. Not sure here. If there's anything. Ooh, wait a minute. Second Dinner is the guy who, it was Ben Brode, I believe is his name, was the, we'll talk about it on a Monday. Second Dinner grabs the Marvel partnership and $30 million investment for its inaugural game, so we might see a Marvel-based Hearthstone-like game competing against Hearthstone pretty soon. But sadly, I think that's all the news I'm gonna get to see. Hearthstone episode 1128 aired on my channel 9 minutes ago. So get in early. That's a big number, right? 1128. Alright, well, it looks like there's no real other news to talk about, so we're in a good position. That's going to be it for the stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. When you subscribe, please click the notification bell. If you want a friend to follow me on social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, which would be greatly appreciated, you can support me through Patreon via link below, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off of my wish list, or gift me a gift card, or just gift me a game you'd like to see me cover. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.